moving on in this course, it would be interesting to get into the topic of citizenship for some discussion. Friends, the Constitution of India is a document that governs the citizens of this country. But interestingly, a constitution can actually govern persons living in a country. So the distinction between persons who live or who are residents of one country where they come for work or for temporary shelter purposes, as against those who are citizens of the nation. Sometimes the constitution have made important and significant demarcations about, the kind of rights, duties, and responsibilities citizens and non-citizens can have. So every modern state does define citizenship, and it does define the distinction between a citizen and an alien. An alien is supposed to be someone who is not from the same land, who is not from the same city, and he's from some other state. And you would obviously notice that aliens may not enjoy some of the civil and political rights. For example, we would say that aliens may not have the right to vote or decide who is their elected representative and take part in the democratic process, as it were. So, if you cannot vote, generally you cannot also probably contest elections or hold public offices because these are something that is exclusively held for citizens. There was this controversy between the Congress and the Bharatiya Janata Party about the citizenship of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and there were some kind of allegations and protests saying that because she is not the citizen of this country, she should not hold the highest office of the Prime Minister of India. Uh, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi has the citizenship of India right now, and though she is, born in some other country, but she got married to an Indian. And anyway, these are issues that may arise. So we say that aliens have lesser rights. But please note, when we talk about aliens who are non-citizens, aliens can be distinguished between friendly aliens and aliens that are enemies. That is also very important because if you're looking at China or Pakistan, India has had suspicion on citizenship arriving from these two countries. And there have been sometimes sanctions, there have been embargoes on the nation, there have been diplomatic expulsions, as it were. So alien enemies are subjects of a country which is considered not so very friendly with India, or you can consider alien enemies as those subjects of the state to which India is at war with. Friendly aliens are anyone from any other jurisdiction where India has bilateral and multilateral treaties. It has friendly relationships, and that is how the distinction can be made. But aliens are definitely different from citizens, and that clearly distinguishes the reason why the Constitution of India in Article 5. Article 5 of the Constitution is Part 2 of the Constitution. Please note it down. Part 1 of the Constitution deals with the territory of India, and it has 4 articles, which we'll probably discuss in some other chapter. But coming to Article 5, friends, Article 5 talks about citizenship at the commencement of the Constitution. You have Article 6 also that talks about the rights of citizens who have migrated to India from Pakistan. This is a special provision. Article 7, rights of citizens of certain migrants to Pakistan. And Article 8, which talks about right of citizens of certain persons of Indian origin residing outside India. Article 9 talks about persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of a foreign state not to be citizens. So that is a negative, demarcation of saying that if you have taken the citizenship of a foreign state, you lose the citizenship of this country. Article 10, continuity of the rights of citizenship, is also something that is mentioned. And then finally, friends, in Part 2, you have Article 11, which talks about Parliament to regulate the right of citizenship by law. And hence you will notice that while the Parliament can regulate the right of citizenship by law, the Citizenship Act of 1955 becomes the most important law to determine and govern the issues of citizenship and public administration. So the Constitution, friends, does entitle citizens with certain kinds of rights and privileges as against aliens or as against persons who are residents in that particular country. So in India, some of the privileges and rights that citizens have over any other person are mentioned in Article 15, 16, 19, 29, 30, and so on and so forth. So definitely citizens have better rights, better fundamental rights. They have better protections, and it is always about their duties as well. And you will notice that citizens have a duty to pay taxes. They have the duty to respect the national flag, anthem, and defend the country. So on and so forth. So these are just few of the duties that citizens have, while they have the privileges or rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution of India. Also, one should note that while we say citizens can only hold public offices, there are many such public offices that citizens alone can hold, and that include the President of India, the Vice President, the Judge of being the Judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court. You can only be the Governor of a state if you're a citizen of India. You can hold the office of the Attorney General or Advocate General in different states if you're only citizen of this country. So these are all constitutional positions, and only citizens can occupy this position. And that is very clear in terms of what the Constitution wants to bring about. Of course, while we talk about citizenship, the Constitution does say how can you acquire citizenship, right? And it does deal with not only the problem of acquisition of citizenship, it also deals with the aspect of loss of citizenship as well. Now, earlier you will notice that while the country was divided between, say, Pakistan on the west and east, and India as the major land, the issue of people from Pakistan and in Pakistan was actually very, very important. And hence, the Parliament was empowered to enact the Citizenship Act, and the Constitution would actually provide the guidance about how citizenship ought to be given in case of persons who have migrated from Pakistan. So, if you look at the Citizenship Act of India and the Constitution, and if you read these two documents together, you will notice that there are four categories of persons who can become citizens in India. First, a person who has his domicile in India and has fulfilled any of the three conditions. And what are the three conditions? First, that he was born in India. That's by birth. Or if either of his parents were born in India, or if he has been the ordinary resident for 5 years, immediately before the commencement of the Constitution of India, he becomes the citizen of India by birth, or either of his parents, not both, one of them was born in India, or he was an ordinary resident of India 5 years preceding the commencement of the Constitution of India. So that very clearly was the first method in which citizenship ought to have been granted. Second, it says that a person who migrated to India from Pakistan becomes an Indian citizen if he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents were born in the undivided India then, and also fulfilled any one of the two conditions. In case he migrated to India before July 19th, 1948, he should have come to India before that, or he has been an ordinary resident in India since the date of his migration, so on and so forth. So there are conditions attached about how citizenship can be given to people who have been migrated from Pakistan. The same condition applies in the third case about a person who migrated to Pakistan. So an Indian who goes to Pakistan after March 1st, 1947, but later on he returns to India and decides to settle in India Then, if he is a resident of India for 6 months preceding the date of his application for citizenship, he shall also be entitled to citizenship. So, Indian who goes to Pakistan and then comes back, once he is, is a resident of India for 6 months, he can apply for citizenship. The fourth point is a person who or any whose parents or grandparents were born in undivided India, but who is ordinarily resident outside India shall become an Indian citizen if he has been registered as a citizen of India by the diplomatic or the consular representative of India in that country. So, if you are residing in some other country, but your parents or grandparents were born in India, in undivided India, then you can make an application to the Indian diplomatic mission or to the consular office, and they will probably decide your citizenship as well. So, to sum up, friends, please know there are these four aspects that should be taken into consideration. How do you deal with citizenship? First, people who are domiciled in India can acquire citizenship. Okay. Two, people who migrated from Pakistan can also get citizenship. Three, persons who migrated to Pakistan but later returned to India can also acquire citizenship. And finally, persons of Indian origin residing overseas or abroad can also apply for citizenship. Now, you will notice that we generally say that there are the following methods for acquisition of citizenship in this country. First, you can acquire citizenship by birth. Okay, if you are born in India, of course, you are entitled to claim citizenship. But interestingly, just by birth, you automatically don't become the citizen of India. Your parents ought to also be citizens. So this was brought about through one of the amendments. So just by simple birth, it is not possible. Your parents also have to be Indians, and only then automatically by birth you should get citizenship. This was a case, where surrogacy became so very popular in India, and a lot of these surrogate childs would be born in India and claim citizenship, despite the fact that their, biological parents were from some other country. So I think now an additional condition is by birth plus your parents, both your parents have to be citizens of India, and they should not be illegal immigrants at that point of time. So this is an additional condition to get citizenship by birth. If you are a person born outside India, but before 1992, this was an amendment, December 10th. But before December 10, 1992, is a citizen of India by descent. If his father was a citizen of India at the time of his birth, then in that cases, a minor who is a citizen by virtue of his descent can also apply for citizenship if he does not renounce the citizenship or the nationality of India, and he can actually apply for a citizenship. So this was a 1992 amendment where by descent, where your father has been a citizen, whereas you have actually been born outside India, you can still acquire citizenship if you decide to apply the same. The third important process of acquiring citizenship is by registration. The central government can call for application, and you can actually apply to claim citizenship. How can you actually claim citizenship by registration? You have to have a resident in India for the previous 7 years before an application for registration can be made. This is in case of a person of Indian origin who ordinarily resides in India. So for him, the rule is 7 years. A person who is married to a citizen of India and is an ordinary resident in India for 7 years. So if someone marries an Indian and is a resident for 7 years in India, can also make an application for registration. A minor child of persons who are citizens of India. So the minor child was born somewhere not in India but in some other jurisdiction. They can also make an application if their parents are Indians. A person of full age and capacity whose parents are registered as citizens of India can also make an application. So there are different categories of persons who are eligible for grant of citizenship by registration. The fourth method in which you can look at registration of citizenship, or a grant of citizenship rather, not registration, is through a grant of certificate of naturalization by the central government. How does one get citizenship by naturalization? These are the following methods in which citizenship can be granted through naturalization. First, that is, one, you should not be a subject of any or citizen of any other country, and that country has not objected to your citizenship or not rejected your citizenship. You decide to renounce the citizenship of some other country and make an application for Indian citizenship, and that has been accepted. Uh, you have resided in India, or has you have been in service of the government of India, through various means, and you have stayed in India for a preceding 12 months before the date of application. So naturalization is also something that is applicable in terms of an immediate preceding 14 years. Uh, if you have resided in India or been in the service of the government of India, then the aggregate of the same is taken into consideration, and sometimes that is also one of the methods in which you can acquire citizenship by naturalization. So, of course, you have to have good character and so on and so forth. You ought to have adequate knowledge of English or any other language that is there in the eighth schedule of the Constitution. And the certificate of naturalization can be granted if you show that you intend to stay in India and you enter into continue to serve in a national or an international organization in India, or in some kind of a society, company, or a body, corporate as well. Usually, citizenship by case of naturalization is granted to distinguished persons in service who have made India their home. They may include people who come from different, talented backgrounds, who come from, say, science, philosophy. Usually, a lot of people with art, culture, cinema, literature, peace, or voluntary services, and so on and so forth. All of these, there are so many such individuals who decided to stay back in India, continue in India, serve in India. They may be, part of some of the, Christian institutions. Some of them have continued to hold a lot of property, land, business, and other philanthropy kind of issues in India. And hence, by naturalization, what you do is you show allegiance to the Constitution of India, and thereby, I think you are entitled to gain the citizenship as well. So these are very, very important in terms of what you see as the aspects of citizenship. But don't forget, friends, sometimes citizenship can be granted by annexation of a territory of the nation as well. Though India has never had an expansion policy, India has never been an aggressor. India has never taken over any land or territory, though it could have done so if it wanted to, but it has never done. However, you notice that, for example, even after the Citizenship Act of 1955, there were certain territories like in Pondicherry and others, or even Goa for that matter, where the government of India had to actually take over after a certain duration of time, without any conflict, without any violence. So, whenever these territories are actually annexed to mainland India, and the constitution tends to apply in those places, by annexation or incorporation of a territory to the Constitution of India, you will notice that citizenship will be granted to the people resident of that kind of a territory as well. Um, the Citizenship Act has been amended a couple of times. We'll probably take that up in the next slide. But right now, I think it's important to also discuss how does one lose citizenship. I think this is not something that is going to be forced in a democratic process or a society. You can decide to renounce your citizenship. Your citizenship can also be terminated, and you can be deprived of the same. Now, let's start with the process of deprivation, because that is very important, because that is the process of snatching away the citizenship of India. Um, See, the first thing that deprivation can be done by the central government is when they come to know that the citizenship has been acquired by fraud. So by falsification of documents or any other illegal, mischievous, criminal breach of papers, then deprivation can be possible. Your citizenship can be cancelled, taken away, and snatched away from you. Second, I think you will notice that the Act very clearly says that if you are not loyal to the Constitution of India, see, patriotism and citizenship sometimes are used synonymously. Your loyalty to the country, to the nation, and to the oath to the Constitution are very paramount and important. So, a citizen who has shown disloyalty to the Constitution of India can also be deprived of the aspect of citizenship. A citizen who has unlawfully traded or communicated with an enemy during war, traded or communicated with an enemy during war, can also be deprived of his citizenship. A citizen has, within 5 years after the registration or naturalization, been imprisoned in any country for 2 years. So, after your registration or naturalization, if you have been imprisoned in any country for 2 years or more, then you can also be deprived of citizenship. This is to, try and dissuade criminals from continuing to hold citizenship of the country. Any person who has been resident outside India for 7 years continuously can also be deprived of his citizenship. So this is there in the law, but again, exceptions and discretionary power of the central government is always there, especially in current circumstances when there is so much of globalization. But again, remember, this is 7 years continuous. So even if you have landed in India once within the 7 years, you can continue to hold the citizenship of the country. Then let's go to termination. This is what can take place. Termination is by a choice. Here is where the Indian citizen voluntarily means without any duress. He does so without any undue influence. He does it without any compulsion. He does it out of his own choice, will, voluntarily, consciously. He can, look at acquiring citizenship of some other country. There are a lot of non-resident Indians who are now acquiring citizenship of various countries, including the United States, UK, Australia, and so on and so forth. Then automatically, please note, his citizenship of India gets terminated. So once you can hold citizenship of only one nation or one country at a time. So if you have acquired the citizenship of UK, automatically your Indian citizenship shall be terminated. Right. So this is what is by termination you will lose citizenship. By renunciation, a citizen of India has the capacity to declare that he no longer wants to hold the citizenship of this country, which will clearly show that, look, this is possible that you can declare yourself not to be a citizen. And this declaration usually happens during war, when India is engaged, and then there is a hostile government, military that takes place, and you have to show allegiance to that new government, new military, and hence this is possible that you can just make a declaration that you have renounced the previous citizenship for whatever purpose, to save life, to save your property, to save yourself from any kind of torture, and please note, this kind of right to renounce is there with every citizens, like they have the right to make a choice about which citizenship they need to acquire. And interestingly, uh, you know, this renunciation can be resumed immediately. So once you made that declaration, that's only a temporary declaration, because that is what you made by yourself, not by submitting an application to the government as well. So you can actually resume your Indian citizenship if you wish to do that. And people who are of age and even minors have been very interestingly given this choice to make in terms of renunciation or the declaration of renunciation. Moving forward, you will notice that in India we do not have any kind of two citizenship of a state and citizenship of the central government or the union territory or the union government. We have only single citizenship policy, or what we can say, we do not have a dual polity citizenship. So, some nations have adopted the dual citizenship policy. Switzerland can be an example of the same, but most countries across the world have single citizenship. USA also is another nation which has, allegiance not only to the state but also to the center. So they have unions of state, is what the United States is. So that is where the allegiance between center and state can also happen. So in India, the advantages of single citizenship are very clearly that you will not be discriminated, in public employment or in attaining privileges and grants from the central government just because you are from one state. The rule of public administration is to treat citizens of all states equally, and that makes the parliamentary responsibility of ensuring that no citizen of any state, whether it is in the heartland of India or in the hinterland of India, are actually neglected for any kind of schemes, policies, or welfare measures as the state would like to bring it. So, the single citizenship provision helps against any claim of discrimination. Also, please do not forget that in a single citizenship, you have the right to move across the country freely. Yes, there are restrictions of certain kind of areas, and that I think should be taken due note and consideration of, because these are restricted areas sometimes because of tribal population. They could be restricted due to military and defense purposes, but otherwise, generally, there is freedom of movement across the country. Sometimes you will notice that in Jammu and Kashmir, that kind of a freedom of movement was restricted. There was some special status to Jammu and Kashmir, and they could actually introduce, some kind of restriction for Indians to move around in Jammu and Kashmir. Otherwise, right now you will notice that by abolition of the Article 370 of the Constitution, that kind of a special status to Jammu and Kashmir also has been taken away, and hence you have the right to claim the freedom of movement all across the country. Now, coming to the most critical part of this discussion is this very interesting concept called the overseas citizen of India. To a larger extent, a lot of people think that this has introduced what we call as dual citizenship. This whole idea of bringing the OCI cardholder, this started off quite some time back. There was actually an LLM Singhvi report that wanted to bring in harmony between non-resident Indians, citizens abroad, and the Constitution of India. So to hold those who have gone outside India back with their roots in India, I think the whole idea of giving them some kind of card, some kind of a identity status, giving them some amount of freedom or privilege to come back and stay back in the country, or to hold to their ancestral home, as the case may be. I think there was a lot of debate on the Citizenship Act being amended to bring in some kind of privilege to persons of Indian origin. So a lot of debate has taken place, and you will notice that the Citizenship Act was amended a couple of times. Interestingly, it was amended in 2003, then 2005, and then 2015 as well. So, the 2015 Amendment Act is currently the law that defines overseas citizen of India. So, interestingly, you will notice that before 2015, the people abroad and who were connected to India had what is known as the PIO card, the person of Indian origin card. Today, we give them the overseas citizen of India card. Okay, person of Indian origin, overseas citizenship of India card. Now that's very interesting because you continue to be a citizen in some form, but you're overseas. That is the idea that comes from the 2015 amendment and scheme that was introduced for people from abroad. Um, who is entitled to overseas citizen of India? Uh, any citizen of any other country uh, is eligible to become the citizen of India under the OCI status. Okay. The only thing is, you can be of foreign origin with, having some connection with India. So there are a lot of conditions about how India will apply the overseas citizen of India card, or you can hold dual citizenship in some form or some manner. Um, okay, so there are a lot of conditions about OCI, but let us try and see what are the rights to an OCI person. Uh, the central government can decide what these rights are from time to time. Currently, as we speak, you will notice that an OCI person cannot take public employment. Okay, he is not considered a full citizen. He's considered a kind of a quasi citizen of this nation. So you cannot hold any public office. You cannot be a president, a vice president, attorney general, judge, or any other public office, because you do not have the right to vote. So OCI people are not entitled to vote. They cannot also stand for elections, either of the state or the central legislature. Uh, You please also understand that OCI citizenship can also be cancelled due to the same reasons, like fraud and other false representations as well. However, let us look at the benefits that are given to overseas citizens of India. First, you have the chance of multiple entry lifelong visa for visiting India for any purpose. Okay. However, if you are doing any kind of a research, then you will require special permits. Otherwise, you have a multiple entry lifelong visa to come into India. So you don't have to apply for visa each and every time. So this is one major advantage for OCI cardholders. Second, you are exempted from registration with the foreigners regional registration office, which applies to any foreigner who's going to stay for a long period of time in India. So foreigners have to actually make that registration. They have to report to the local police station that you are exempted from. OCI cardholders are in parity with NRIs. NRIs are non-resident Indians. They are still Indians, but not in resident in India. In respect of all economic, financial, and educational facilities, and you can also look at acquisition of agricultural and plantation property depending upon the state regulation that applies to such agricultural and plantation property, which means if an NRI can hold immobile property, an OCI person can also hold immobile property. So second, one important thing about NRI and OCI is that an NRI can also undertake adoption in India. They can adopt a child. OCI person can also adopt a child. So OCI people, shall be also treated in par with a citizen in some cases. For example, in many of these tourist, visiting places like, Archaeological Survey of India or any other monument in India, or even national parks and sanctuaries, you will notice that foreigners have a different fee, citizens have a different fee. An OCI cardholder can claim the same fee that is charged to a citizen when he visits such monuments and national parks as well. So that is also something that is a privilege granted to OCI person. Um, yeah, so that is what OCI is for, and so OCI people do get certain interesting rights. Yeah, so I think that is kind of important. That is kind of what OCI. So from PIO, we have gone to an OCI status, as the case may be, in terms of citizenship. Going to the final point, which I think is important and relevant is about the number of amendments that the Citizenship Act has undertaken. You will notice that while the first amendment happened in 1985, it was called the Assam Accord. And under this, to bring in peace in the Northeast, you will notice that we granted Bangladeshi migrants citizenship status. And that was the first amendment that happened in 1985. In 2003, a major amendment was brought in, bringing the notion of citizenship was vis-a-vis illegal immigrants, or what we would call as refugees. And we developed the National Registry of Citizens to make this kind of a clear distinction. However, the most controversial in recent times amendment that was brought in the year 2019, and this resulted in the most famous protest that lasted for a very long period of time, called the Shaheen Bagh protest. So, what was the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019? What did this act actually bring into light? Um, See, what this law brought in is that it empowered the central government uh, to uh, provide citizenship to people belonging to the Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi, or Christian community who come from these following countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, or Pakistan, who enter into India on or before 31st December 2014. This was the real reason why this amendment became a real controversy. In a sense, that this amendment decided that under the Foreigners Amendment Order of 2015, the exemption would be given to minority communities from, say, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and we also said to a larger extent it would be applicable to the minority communities like Hindu, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jain, Parsis, and Christian. And this did not involve or include Muslims. That is probably the reason this Amendment Act became the most controversial part in 2019. Um, Now, this amendment was brought by the BJP government, and it was considered that it was very much a right wing or Hindu majority kind of an opinion. And the amendment was criticized heavily as being discriminatory on the basis of religion. And that is the reason why it got so much of controversy. So, the protests were quite violent at times. It was long. The immigrants, especially from Bangladesh and other places, thought that their political right was, infringed by these. There were protests in universities like Aligarh Muslim University, Jama Millia, etc., etc. Lot of damage to public and private property did take place during this time, and I think this was quite a volatile amendment that was challenged on the streets of the country. Now, while India has suffered the issues of immigration, especially from having a porous border with Bangladesh and especially in Northeast, I think to a larger extent, India also has been a country that has accorded refugee status to people who have come and sought shelter. The Tibetan refugees, the Chakma refugees, the Tamil refugees, all have been granted shelter or asylum, as the case may be, in this country. So India has had great history of asylum seekers who have been given shelter and protection, and many of these refugees have been given the process of naturalization in this country. However, I think the mass influx of refugees started creating a lot of problem in urban areas and in urban planning, because it is at a state cost that you have to incur the basic necessities of protecting life for the refugees. So this has impacted state policy to a larger extent. I think this has been a matter of public debate. It has been a problem for public administration as well about how to deal with these refugees, how to kind of have not allow them to squatter around or create camps in places that can actually create a lot of public order and public morality issues. So in India, I think this has been a major challenge, and Assam government has always had a problem of this kind of a migration. Uh, though migration results in cheap labor, it also results in a lot of administrative challenges, especially the law and order problems, because the locals feel threatened, the locals don't feel safe. So this is a conflict of public order. This is a conflict of state policy. Sometimes I think it's more importantly because citizenship is only one single citizenship that is granted by the central government. It becomes a national issue and a national problem as well. You will notice that, to be honest, uh, places like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and Nagaland, they have actually been able to defend some kind of an illegal immigration because they have something called the inner line permit. So you have to take a special permit because these are, kind of scheduled areas, and hence it is not easy for immigrants to actually move to these three northeastern states. So I think the aspect about who can create such kind of special privilege or special permit, which kind of states can do it, is also a matter of public concern as well. As of now, when the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 was being discussed, debated, or brought about, you will notice the central government was concerned about the refugees that were coming from Myanmar, and the refugees were Rohingya Muslims. And hence, the justification of the central government was that if this Citizenship Act provided for minority sections of Myanmar, uh, especially Muslims, also to acquire citizenship, then that would create a very issue of public administration. And the Indian government was firm that it wanted to deport the Rohingya Muslims and refugees to Myanmar back, even though they were given temporary refugee status. Because please note, they moved from Bangladesh to India. And hence, that is the reason the central government justified not including Muslims in the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. Uh, so I think this issue became a kind of a political heated debate for a long period of time, and students, especially in university campuses, protested on what was known as the CAA protest, and some of the protests were peaceful, like the Shaheen Bagh protest. But the Shaheen Bagh protest occupied a major highway. They literally blocked a major highway entering into Delhi, and to some extent, I think the court had to intervene and close down this protest, and that is how finally the Shaheen Bagh protest ended. Yes, there are allegations about who funded the Shaheen Bagh protest, but these were all controversies surrounding who is in favor of CAA and who is against the same. But I think that Citizenship Amendment Act seemed to have the latest controversy about who should be allowed to acquire citizenship, especially if you're a migrant, if you're a refugee. I think currently some special status have been granted to only non-Muslims under the Citizenship Act of 2019, and especially so if you're coming from the neighboring countries like Afghanistan and others. So I think if you look at it, uh, yeah, yeah, religious minorities from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. These were the three countries that had been accorded this kind of a special exception. I think that should be good in terms of understanding the aspects of citizenship. I think what is important is that the identity card of citizenship happens to be the passport that a person holds. But please note, mere proof of passport alone is not going to determine citizenship, because the passport is only the permit to go abroad. So your hold on citizenship can be proved through various other documents as well. So right now, you will notice that one of the methods of showing that you're a citizen or not is by holding your Aadhaar card. Sometimes holding your voter ID card is also the basis on which the citizenship can be proved, in case you need to prove the same. So that is the proof of citizenship as it were. Also, any kind of deprivation of the citizenship can only be done through procedure established by law, because holding the citizenship is like a right to life. And you will notice that this was held in the most famous case of Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India, decided in the year 1978 by the Supreme Court of India. So I think passport impounding was held in that case to be invalid, because the procedure established by law was not followed in that particular case. So your denial of citizenship, your deprival of citizenship can only be done by procedure established by law. So citizens have the protection of the constitution, and being citizen is an integral part to one's identity, one's life, and that is what the Supreme Court did hold in the Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India case.